Okay, so today we're going to go over the basics of navigating a terminal. This is going to be the same whether or not you're on WSL, like I am right now, a Linux terminal, or even a terminal within macOS. In terms of how to get started with WSL and install it, that's going to be covered in the previous tutorial video that I posted. So let's go ahead and dive into the basics of navigating the terminal. So by default, when you start a terminal session, it's going to load you into your home directory. We can see that reflected in the top left, everything to the left of the $sign after the full colon. And that's going to be the /MNT/C/users/JohnWC. And so once you're in a directory, if you want to see the contents of the directory, you can type the command ls, and that's going to list the contents of the directory. So we can see in here that I have a directory labeled school. So let's go ahead and change directory into there and get started on some schoolwork. So if we type cd, that's going to change directory, and then we type the directory that we want to change into. So we're going to change into the school directory. So cd space school, hit enter. And there you go. Now you can see that the prompt on the left has changed and we're located within the school directory. And at any time you can type clear to clear the contents of the screen. And so now let's go ahead and type ls and see what we have within the school directory. So we see that we have a directory labeled ECS. And let's say we want to get a little more information about the contents of a directory. We're going to type ls, and then we're going to set a flag on the command. We do that by typing dash. And then let's go ahead and type L. L gives us the long form of a listing. And you can see here that that directory was created October 5th at 1433. And on the far left, you can see the permissions that are set to the directory. We won't get into that. It's a little more complicated, but it is definitely something good to know. I'd recommend that if you want to get proficient with navigating terminal, that you look up file and directory permissions within Linux or Unix. They're both going to be the same for our basic purposes. Let's go ahead and change into the ECS directory. So once again, it's going to be similar. So it's going to be cd space ECS, hit enter. And once again, let's take a look, see what we have in here. And nothing. So no output, which basically means that there's nothing in that directory. But now, within that directory, let's go ahead and feed some additional flags to that command. So if we want the long form listing, but we also want to see maybe if there's some hidden files. And the way it works in Linux or Unix is a file is hidden if the file name starts with a dot. So as we saw here, nothing shows up, but let's go ahead and add the A command in addition to the L. The L is for long form, the A is to list all files, including hidden. We see that, oh look, we have some hidden file there. So it's not necessarily nefarious or anything like that, but you might have like system setting files or config files, something like that, set up as a hidden file within a directory. So if we want to, we can go ahead and output the contents of a file to the screen. There's a simple command for that. It's called cat. It actually concatenates the contents of the file to the screen buffer. And so we'll go ahead and do that just to demonstrate. And so there we go. Hit enter, and there you go. Something in the hidden file is the words something here. Let's see, what else? Let's demonstrate how to make a directory. So once again, let's clear the screen, and we'll type mkdir for make directory, and let's create a directory that is unique to this course. So we'll type make directory ECS36B, hit enter. And now, when we type ls, we should see that directory reflected, and it's right there. So let's go ahead and change directory into that newly created directory. Oh, and something I'd like to highlight here, a little shortcut for you, is when you're typing and you're like, oh wow, the ECS36B, that's too much to type, or maybe it's too slow for you to type or something. If you want to do an autocomplete on the command as you're typing, you start to type it, and then you hit tab, and it'll autocomplete the rest of, say, the file name or directory name with whatever file or directory name would be applicable in this case. So since there's only one, it's very easy for it to autocomplete. So now let's talk about navigating back up the directory tree. So you can see on the left hand side the directory listing has gotten longer each time we've gotten further down the directory path. And you can just think about this as just a simple tree of directories. So like a series of nested folders or nested directories. So let's go ahead and navigate back up the tree. And the way we do that is we change directory, and now we're going to use a relative path command. So by typing ... that means up the directory structure one element. And so we'll go cd space ... hit enter, and you'll notice that the directory listing to the left is now shortened by one element because we've gone back up the tree by one element. And so we can verify that by typing ls again and seeing that we're back in the directory that contains the ECS36B directory. And we can go back up one more. And now we're just back in the school directory, and we can verify that by typing ls. Okay. And actually, if you just want to see the present directory that you're in, because maybe you're in a version of shell that doesn't show your full current directory like mine does on the left, you can always type pwd, which is just print working directory. And that'll give you the output that I have to the left of my cursor. Let's see, what else here? Let's go ahead and navigate multiple directories at once. So let's say, so the dot is also a relative indicator in a directory path. So if I have a single dot, it means the directory that I'm currently located in. So I want to change directory starting from where I'm at and then going to another directory. So let's go ahead and say we want to go to the ECS36B one directly from school without stopping at ECS. So what we're going to do is recreate that stub of the directory path there in terminal and tell it to change directory to that. And as you can see, we jumped two directories at once. So conversely, you can also go backwards through the directory tree, multiple directories at a time. And so let's show you how that's done. So same as before, change directory space ... / and then let's go ahead and add another ... and that's going to tell it that we're going to go ahead and go backwards through the tree by 2 elements. And you can see that reflected there on the left, or by pressing pwd again and print the work directory. Okay, So that's the basics of navigating forwards, backwards, and kind of jumping around through the directory structure from the command line. Oh, and one other thing is that you can go ahead and go through the previous commands that you've already typed in before. And so you can do that by pressing up and down arrow keys on your keyboard. And that's going to cycle through the previous commands. And so, for example, if, let's say, you wanted to go backwards a couple spots in your directory, and then you say, oh, you know what, it's actually 2 more elements back. You could actually just hit up on the arrow key, hit enter again on that, and you'll see again that took you back another 2 elements in the tree. And then, let's say you find yourself somewhere you didn't intend. Maybe you're all the way at the root of your drive, and you're wondering, well, shoot, there are a lot of directories here, and I don't remember where my home directory was, and you just feel lost. So at that point, you can just type cd with no additional information, and you hit enter, and that's going to take you by default to your home directory. And so we can verify that with pwd and show that we're in our home directory. So let's see here. Okay, so something that I just noticed when I typed in cd with no additional commands or directory information is that rather than taking us back to the directory that you see to the left of my cursor, it actually took us to the default user directory that you have within the Unix instance that's running as a part of, or Linux instance that's running as a part of WSL. I haven't used WSL as much. I'm actually kind of a Linux guy as my daily driver. So I didn't know about that particular little quirk, so something to be aware of. But if you notice here within your default user directory, you'll have a bunch of those hidden files that I was talking about, and those are config files. So we can go ahead and take a look in there and see what we have. So for example, oops, see, I messed up a command, so you can go ahead and type up to look through your command history, find the command, and then you can actually modify it so that it's correct. Oh, that's a directory, so we can't print the contents of it. So let's go ahead and change into it, see what we have. It looks like nothing's actually in there, so it doesn't matter. So we'll go back, kind of just exploring around here. Let's see what else we have here. Let's look at the bash rc file and see what we have. Okay, so there you go. You can print the contents out to screen, look at it if you want to. If you want to open it up in an editor, it's a little more complicated. I highly recommend that you guys learn this if you're serious about, you know, being a computer scientist or being a CS major. I'm not going to tell you which text editor to use. There's a lot of opinions out there, but primarily it comes down to 2 camps. It's either Emacs or Vim. I'm a Vim person myself, so I will show you an example of Vim and its usage. So this is a text-based editor that's within the The basics of, I think, I don't know, really every distro has some version. Maybe not Vim, but they'll have VI, which is basically the same thing, just a subset. And so if we go ahead and type vim space dash bash rc, that'll open up that file that we had just printed to the screen, but open it for editing. So with that, we're now in Vim, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on file numbers, file line numbers, so that I can see where I'm at in the file. So for that, to go into command mode now within Vim, we type shift and then colon. You'll see at the bottom my cursor is down there. You'll see what I'm typing. So I'm going to type set space NU. That's going to turn on line numbers. And then let's say that I want to actually edit something. So I don't know, let's just say I'm going to add something to the comment field here. So we start our comments here in our config file with a octothorpe. So type the octothorpe and actually, so to get into the mode where you can even start inserting text, you have to type I from command mode. So let me back up a moment. Hit escape to get out of the insert mode. So let's say though I'm back in command mode. You can see my cursor once again at the bottom after the colon. So let's say I've been doing some commands. I'm done with that. From there, I hit escape, and now I hit I to get into insert mode, and I can start editing the text directly. So once again, I will type the octothorpe for the beginning of my comment. I will add something useless and go ahead and hit escape, go back into command mode, colon, and you can do this one of several ways. You can either hit S, oops, excuse me, you can hit W to save it. That's to write the contents to file, and then another command, Q, to quit. So once again, we can go back into Vim, just hit up on your arrows to cycle back through your commands, open it back up in Vim. And since we haven't set any defaults in our Vim config, which I highly recommend you do, maybe I'll make a video on setting up your Vim configuration, but not today. So we're going to set our numbers again just so we can see where we're at with line numbers. And then let's go ahead and say, well, you know what, that was kind of a useless edit. So we're going to take that edit back out. And now we need to write those contents. And then we know that, well, that's the last edit I'm going to make because I'm done with this particular thing. So I want to write that and I want to quit at the same time. So to do that, escape again to get out of insert mode, and then shift colon to get into command mode, and then we're going to type X and then hit enter. And what that's going to do is it's going to write all the changes that we made, and it's going to exit Vim all in one command. So that's the basics, the very, very basics of editing text files on command line and navigating command line. Let's go ahead and let's go back to the directory that we'd created earlier. And I have to figure out where that was. So I think that was under mount C users, my name, hit enter. There we go. Let's clear. I like to keep my screen clean. From here, we'll go ahead and list out our directory contents. Right, we have a school one, so we're going to go ahead, change into that. And you'll notice each of those appeared pretty quickly because after hitting the slash, I just hit tab. And since there was only one possibility within that directory, it just auto-completes it. Very, very easy. But let's go ahead and show you a scenario where maybe there's a few different possibilities. So I'll make a couple of different directories within school. So let's say I have one called, I don't know, ECR. I don't know what that is, but so now we have a directory called ECR and ECS. And let's make another directory in there as well called TRV. And we can see that we have all three of those directories in there now. So now let's say I want to go into ECS and then into the ECS36B subdirectory all in one command. So I start to change directory from here, and I want to tab autocomplete. The problem is, now when I hit tab, there's more than one option, so it doesn't know which one I'm trying to select right away. And so what it does, default action of what it does in like bash shell, is it's going to list out what options you have. And so if you start typing, so I'm going to start with the E because I want to go into ECS. It's now going to say, okay, well, if you typed an E, then with the two options that are left, it has to start, the second letter has to be a C, so it auto-completes that. It just doesn't know what that last letter is going to be when we keep hitting tab there. Oops. So if we need, then we go ahead, we hit the last letter that's in the autocomplete there. We can hit tab again, and it's going to go ahead and autocomplete the only available option that's left after that. And then hit enter. We're now in the ECS36B subdirectory. And then from there, let's go ahead and create a basic C file and compile it, and I'll show you how that works.